I really want to talk about today is Ophiuchus. So if you've been here for any length of time, then you know that I am or have been transitioning from Western tropical astrology to true sidereal astrology over the past 3 years. It's been a very slow transition. I have had many times where I go back and forth. And my views and my opinions are mine alone. It doesn't mean that everybody that practices or studies true sidereal feels the same way as me. These are my opinions. I personally see the value in Western tropical astrology still. I've seen its accuracy time and time again with myself and with my clients. However, I also believe that there has been an intentional pushing out of the 13th sign of Ophiuchus, and also intentionally putting us on the seasonal system. I mean, if we think about our ancestors that were, everything that they did was based around watching the stars, you know, all these megalithic structures that were built to keep time and to keep track of certain placements of stars and solstices and things like that. Do you think they would have all of a sudden one day, knowing that we have the progression of the equinoxes, knowing that that's going to change over time, do you think they would have just stopped and said, you know what, nah, we're not going to keep this based off of the actual planets and the constellations that they're in at the time. We're going to go ahead and just keep it where it is right now and say, you know what, this is when Sagittarius, the sun is in Sagittarius. This is when Mercury is in Capricorn, even though if you look at the sky, that's not really what it is. Absolutely not. That was some Roman Empire, right? It was Ptolemy. It was the person that really started the seasonal system. And again, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have any accuracy or validity or value. But I know that when they change things, it is almost never to our benefit. Okay. So anyways, hopefully I can figure this out. I've never done it before. I'm going to try to do a share screen and show you guys what I'm talking about. Present. So let's go to present, share screen. Okay. Now I'm sharing. This is Stellarium. This is the live sky where, let's see, StreamYard is sharing a window. Okay, cool. And we're going to come down here and we're going to add in the zodiac. So you can see here the sun is in Scorpius. The constellation is called Scorpius. Okay. Even though mainstream Western tropical astrology is going to tell you we're in Sagittarius. It's a seasonal system, but people omit that part and they'll just be like sun in Sagittarius, Mercury and whatever, blah, 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 blah. No, they're not saying the sun in Sagittarius season. They're saying the sun in Sagittarius, and the sun is not in Sagittarius. It's in Scorpio. And it's getting ready to move here into Ophiuchus on December 7th. Today is December 2nd. Okay. And so here, what I'm going to do is go to change the day and time. I want that. Actually, but that I think I do. Nope. Because we've also got Mercury getting ready to go retrograde. So I kind of want to find Mercury, which I think is also, it might already be in Ophiuchus. There we go. This makes it look like it's nighttime, even though it's daytime here, right? So there's the sun. You can see it's right here. Technically, right now, it's in between Scorpio and Ophiuchus, but it's still closer to Scorpio, okay? This is the ecliptic. These signs right here. So we've got Scorpio, Libra, Virgo. You can see how much bigger Virgo, you can't even see Virgo's head, okay? Virgo goes way huger, that's not a word. It's way bigger across the sky. So the sun's going to take a lot longer to move through Virgo than it is through Libra, okay? Because look how smaller Libra is. And then if you look likewise, Scorpius because it doesn't run through this way. It goes through the ecliptic on its side. Okay. So it's much smaller. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse or not. I think hopefully you can. Okay. So here's the sun right here. And that's also why Virgo is so big, because it's a constellation that's on her side. So it goes through most of it. I seen a woman on TikTok who was having an absolute conniption saying that something happened during the eclipse in October where the sun stopped moving because, one, she was being told that the sun should have been in Libra already, okay? Because she doesn't realize that that's not true. It's a seasonal system. And then she also doesn't realize, because the Western tropical astrology just takes the 12 zodiacs, it leaves the 13th sign of Ophiuchus out, and it breaks every constellation into an exact 30 degrees each, even though Virgo is much bigger at like 42 degrees. And here over Scorpio, it's only like 15 degrees, and same with Ophiuchus, okay? Because it's going to come up through here, and it's just going to kind of go through that little bit of Ophiuchus. It's not going to go all the way through it, because the sun doesn't move that way. The sun moves across the ecliptic this way. This is why, for instance, you know, we don't have a constellation of Buddhist or whatever this constellation is, or Coma. You know, there's all these other constellations in the sky that are not considered part of the zodiacs because they're not down here on the ecliptic that goes this way. Okay. So the sun moves this way through these signs. And right now it's getting ready to go through Ophiuchus. So on the 7th of December through the 19th of December, and then it will move into Sagittarius. And then from the, you know, it'll spend, I think, how big is Sagittarius? Probably around not quite 30 days. And then it's going to go through Capricorn. But anyways, okay, back to here. So today's date is the 2nd, but if we come over here, I'm going to try to change the date window. So see here, it says December 3rd. Oh, sorry, it is the 3rd. It is the 3rd, right? Yeah, yesterday was the 2nd. Today's the 3rd. So let's go to 4, 5, 6, 7 on the 7th of December, okay? Ooh, look, even over here it says Julian, because the Julian calendar, right? I'd like to know what that means. Oh, that's what time it is. 1350, which here in Utah it is. It's 1:50. Okay, that makes sense. So now let's see where the sun is. Over here, a little bit further. Okay. Now let's go to the 15th, maybe. See how it's moving? Now it's right there. And Ophiuchus, the constellation, happens to fall in the Galactic Center. And the Galactic Center is, in my opinion, like it is like the dark hole. It's the void. It is, we have been made afraid of that darkness instead of realizing that all of creation starts that way. If something is in the light, it already exists. It's already been created. Anything that is not in the light and is in the darkness is the potential to exist. We just have to create it with through quantum physics, right? Through attention, through what's it called? Observing it, right? Bringing it into existence. So then you're going to see here, it's right in the heart of Ophiuchus. I want to show you this too, because that makes it more obvious. Now you can see what you're used to seeing with Libra, with the Scorpio here. There's the Virgo there, right? You can see here how big Ophiuchus is. So if Ophiuchus was tipped on its side like Virgo, it would spend probably 40 something or 50 something days in Ophiuchus, but it's up vertically. So the sun doesn't go through it this way. It goes through this bottom half of his legs, right? So it spends about 14, 15 days in Scorpio, and then it spends about another 14, 15 days in Ophiuchus, okay? So then we go to the 16th, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Oh, actually, now we're already in Sagittarius, so the 19th. The 19th is the final day that we're in Ophiuchus. Then we go, and what's funny is then now we're told that, because I was told, because my birthday is December 28th, I was told that I'm a Capricorn, and Capricorn is cardinal Earth, because the cardinal signs are where the equinoxes and the solstices are, right? So we're told that the winter solstice is December 21st, and that's when the sun enters Capricorn. No, it's nowhere near Capricorn. It's going to be barely moving into Sagittarius on the 21st, okay? So I don't know. I just want to kind of show you guys this. I don't want this to be a super long video, but here are some things to focus on during Ophiuchus season. It's the Serpent Bearer, which is all about healing. It's kind of like Chiron energy. I feel like Chiron should be the planet that rules Ophiuchus, personally. There's a book that I'm looking for here, and I can't find it. Here it is. Gate and Key, which does include Ophiuchus. Okay. Now, the dates are wrong on here, because this says the dates for Ophiuchus are November 30th through December 18th. This is why we can't just pick up a book and think we're an expert on something. And even one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, that it is people that are followers of True Sidereal Astrology and Ophiuchus, somebody posted the other day saying, oh, it's Ophiuchus season on, I think, December 30th, and maybe she's going, or November 30th, maybe because she's going based on this book. And I'm like, no, it's not. You got to go out and check and see what it is. You can't just because somebody wrote a book, anybody can write a book these days, you guys. There's nobody fact checking any of this, okay? So this is why it's important for us to go back to our ancestral ways and actually be keeping track. Now, is it possible that whoever runs this app, Stellarium, could be lying to us? Yes, it's possible. I'd like to get a telescope, actually, because I actually want to start looking at and seeing what's in the sky, okay? But according to this book, it says the dates are November 30th to December 18th. But that's just not true. Oh, that says Scorpio dates. My bad. So that is probably true. Well, Scorpio is probably November 30th through, but not through December 18th. Scorpio is only through December 9th. Or 7th, because it starts on the 7th. And I guess that could maybe change next year. I don't know. This is why we got to start checking instead of just going based off of what we're told, right? But, it does say that the ruling planet is Chiron. Okay. It shares the 8th house with Scorpio. And it's a feminine energy, because it still is, I associate it with ether, where like Scorpio is associated with water, but it can take on both of those qualities. I mean, ether is basically all the elements, right? It's the 5th element. So let's talk about some of the positive expressions of Ophiuchus energy. Seeker of knowledge, magical, fiercely protective, the natural healer, liberty-loving, egalitarian, creative, divine feminine, most magical of the zodiac, light worker, unconditional love, liberator, deepest occult wisdom, and nurturing. And I personally have 2 planets in Ophiuchus. I have Neptune, and I have Mercury. And Mercury is what we want to talk about, what we want to learn about, what we want to teach. And that makes so much sense for me. It made sense in Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is also because in Western it says my Mercury's in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is also very philosophical, religious, that type of thing. But I'm way more into the occult than I am into religion, right? Wait, is it my Uranus or my Neptune that's in Ophiuchus? Let's look at that real quick. Okay, but now you guys can see that. Let's exit out of here. And let's go to my chart. Sure. Okay. Here's my chart. And if we go up here to Ophiuchus, oh yeah, it is Neptune and Mercury. And then I have my Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, but we're focusing on Ophiuchus. Plus I have it in the 8th house, and 8th house is where Ophiuchus and Scorpio normally live. I have what's called a natural chart, because I have Pisces and Aries right here on the cusp of my ascendant, but my Pisces is in, my ascendant is in Pisces in True Sidereal. So anyway, it makes everything fall where it would normally fall. Okay. First house Aries, second house Taurus. We can get into that for a different time. But anyways, Ophiuchus. Oh, and my Mercury's retrograde, by the way. But Neptune is the psychic. It's the deep. It's the, can be a little bit delulu sometimes, right? Neptune can be very like, it's great, everything's fine. Or she can be very, very emo and moody and deep, in the depths. But this is making so much sense to me because I am obsessed with hidden knowledge. You guys, anybody that's known me for a length of time, I've been a conspiracy theorist since 9/11. Okay. So this is somebody that doesn't just want to accumulate knowledge. I want to accumulate truth. And that includes with astrology. I want to know which system is more accurate. I'm not just going to throw away another system till I've seen it. So this is why when I'm practicing astrology now and doing charts for clients, I'm running it in both and I'm presenting the energy in both to see which one resonates and how it resonates. Because so far from what I can see in my own chart is that this is the potential that I have to be the higher octave or the higher version of myself versus my Western chart, which would have me, as an Aries rising, as a sun in Capricorn. There's nothing wrong with those things. And I've seen how those things showed up in my life, but that's more of like the person that they want me to be versus this is the person that I have the true potential and energy to become, my highest and greatest self. And I'm not trying to have to keep coming back here and reliving lives on this prison planet. And I do believe this is a prison planet. So anyways, Ophiuchus season, you guys, is upon us. So take some time to look into what Ophiuchus is, to look into the serpent bearer. And if you'd like to know if you have any Ophiuchus placements, you can reach out to me for a natal chart reading. Maybe ask your, significant other or friend or somebody to buy you one for Christmas. And I will be running your chart in both Western tropical as well as in true sidereal. Okay. So it wouldn't be fair though to just talk about the positive expressions of Ophiuchus. We're going to talk about the negative expressions as well, which is openly rebels. I don't necessarily think that's so negative, but I definitely am openly rebellious. Cruel, victim, secretive, destructive, angry, vengeful, trickster, recluse, misunderstood, violent, kill, or be killed, right? Because if you are the wounded healer and you choose to not work on your healing, you choose to stay locked into your victim mentality, you don't give a fuck about anybody else. It is kill or be killed. That's when somebody who's been abused becomes the abuser, right? You have two choices or two roads or paths that you can take from your abuse and your traumas, which everybody has. You can choose to have the wounded healer mentality. And when you heal yourself, you can now heal others, or you can become the predator. Okay, that's it. So that's Ophiuchus energy. So this is a great time for healing. And if you're in my local area, this is a great time to book a quantum healing Reiki crystal session. Okay, but I'm just going to read a little bit more from this book. Let's explore Ophiuchus. In astrological circles know as the serpent bearer, located between the constellations of Aquila, Serpens, and Hercules, Scorpius to the west and Sagittarius to the east. It covers 948 square degrees of the sky and ranks 11th in size. Ophiuchus contains 10 main stars in its asterism and has 62 Bear Flamsteed designated stars within its region. So I don't even know what that means. I'm going to need to start learning astronomy is what I'm learning, okay? Or what I'm figuring out is I need to dive a little bit deeper into astronomy. It's visible to all observers at latitudes between plus 80 degrees and 80 degrees, and it's best seen at culmination during the month of July. Interesting. In the northern hemisphere, opposite to Orion. However, during the winter in the northern hemisphere, the constellation remains invisible to most latitudes. Of the 13 zodiacal constellations, and then it says in parentheses, constellations through which the sun passes. That's what makes up the zodiac signs. Anything that the sun goes through. So there is some kind of argument, and I kind of see this too, because in Aries season, it actually goes through a constellation called Cetus, a little bit more than it even goes through Aries. So I'm not sure why we have Aries versus Cetus, or why we don't maybe even have 14 signs and including Cetus, but that's a conversation for another time. So back to where we're at. However, during winter, northern hemisphere, it says constellations through which the sun passes during the course of the solar year. Ophiuchus is the only one not designated as an astrological sign. The constellation sits on the celestial equator and was one of the 48 original constellations charted by Ptolemy. And Ptolemy is the one that switched us to a seasonal system. Ptolemy was a Greco-Roman mathematician and astronomer, geographer, astrologer, and Hellenistic in the Hellenistic period that covers the period of the Mediterranean history between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the emergence of the Roman Empire as signified by the Battle of Actium in 31 BC and the subsequent conquest of the Ptolemaic Egypt the following year. It was during the time that Western astrology, also known as tropical astrology, was developed. Okay. During this time period, the rise of masculine superiority sought to thwart anything that empowered the divine feminine energies. The works of Aristotle portrayed women as morally, intellectually, and physically inferior to men. Women were reduced to chattel, secondary citizens, and the property of men, which I think at this point all humans have been resorted to chattel, including men. So they went from the divine feminine to the patriarchy, and now it's just an anti-human agenda, dehumanization in general, right? Aristotle pushed the agenda that a woman's role in society was only for reproduction and to the service of men in the household. Gender roles were socially engineered, and the feminine fire was extinguished so her light could not have influence over humanity. The domination of women was culturally accepted in Greek and Roman culture, and anything empowering to women was removed, hidden, or controlled. The empire grew under mass genocide, war, and conquest. Egalitarian and matriarchal societies were wiped out, and womankind was made slave to mankind. First of all, if you take the virtue of man, it is easily stated that a man's virtue is this, that he be competent to manage the affairs of his city, to manage them so as to benefit his friends and harm his enemies, and to take care to avoid suffering or harm on himself, or to take a woman's virtue. There is no difficulty in describing it as a duty of ordering the house well, looking after the property indoors, and obeying her husband, which is met from a quote from Meno, Plato in the 12 volumes. I'm not familiar with that, but the Greek and Roman purposefully ignored the constellation of Ophiuchus when developing the signs and designated a system around the 12 signs to correspond to the 12 months. Because remember, we used to be in a 13-month calendar before this as well. Okay, so you can't be having 13 zodiac signs and then go switching the calendar to 12 months and then only have have 13 zodiacs and only 12 signs. Okay. So they're like, oh, we'll just get rid of Ophiuchus. Well, you think they just went eeny, meeny, miny, mo? Though they intentionally chose Ophiuchus because of its power. Okay, so yeah. The Greek and Roman purposely ignored the constellation of Ophiuchus when developing the signs and designed a system around 12 signs to correspond to the 12 months of their masculine solar calendar. However, when divided properly, there are not just 12 moons in a solar cycle, there's actually 13. That's why we call it a blue moon when there's 2 full moons in a month, but that's because there should be 13 zodiac signs, 13 moons, 13 months, okay? There's actually 13. Each moon cycle is about 28 to 29 and a half days. That means there's just under 2 weeks in each year that do not make a full month in terms of one solar return. But what about this short period of time when the sun passes through the serpent bearer, Ophiuchus? Mayan and Sumerian calendars, matriarchal tribes, so the divine feminine tribes, right? Various Indian cultures, native cultures, and I think probably Vedic or Hindu, like actually from India, are all alchemical manuscripts were founded upon the lunar calendar of 13 months of 28 days each. The Mayan zodiac has 13 signs, one of which is referred to as the hidden sign. So does it really matter? And what is the significance to the empowerment of women? Why would they hide it? Some will argue that this little measure of time is not significant. So rather than give it a short month of its own, the months are staggered out an extra day here and there for a fairly equal division of 12 and 365 days. Further, previously known icons of the constellations were changed to mask their feminine origins. Leo, the female huntress, became a lion. The Taurus female dancing became a bull. And the protector of feminine energies became Aries, the god of war. Wow, maybe that's why it was changed from Cetus to Aries. I'm wondering about that now. And even Ophiuchus, known as a powerful serpent healer, became a snake handler and ultimately removed from the Greco-Roman zodiac. Just look at all the confusion it's caused. Women's menstrual cycles are primarily affected and correspond to the cycles of the moon. In matriarchal societies, the lunar calendar was the primary measurement of the heavenly cycles, and the divine feminine is celebrated and nurtured. Thus, the 13 annual cycles, which matter in terms of feminine cycles, was hidden. Superstitions around the unlucky nature of the number 13, which is why Friday the 13th is now demonized when really it's a super lucky and auspicious day. Superstitions around the unlucky nature of the 13 were spread widely, and witch hunts began by exterminating any women who displayed any kind of empowerment or supernatural ability. The patriarchy would neutralize any threat to its rise in power, and Greek-Roman influence grew with the conquest of Alexander the Great and others who were educated by Aristotle. The poison of patriarchy spread. Before Egypt was conquered and their culture of equality between the sexes was overpowered and destroyed, Herodotus, not sure who that is, Herodotus, a Greek historian, left a record of his contrast between the roles of Egyptian women and the women of Athens. He recorded that Egyptian women not only had the right to attend markets and trade equally with men, middle-class women were even eligible to hold office and participate in local politics, own real estate, secure their own loans, and officiate with legal documents on equal standing with men. Greek women were denied all of these rights. The earliest known historical records of astrology are found on Sumerian tablets. They named many of the constellations and defined the energetic properties of numerous bodies in our solar system. The Babylonians learned astrology from the Sumerians. Ptolemy, among others, learned from the Babylonians. Over time, much of the wisdom recorded by Sumerians was removed, abridged, changed, or lost as it was passed down through history to present day. So much has been forgotten, and yet many people follow these modern astrological systems without questioning their origins, or considering that what is widely acceptable today may not be correct or complete. Okay? How can anyone involved in the occult studies claim that they have all of the truth that they need, and the stars are continually moving and evolving? The history of astrology begins in ancient Sumer, which is present-day Iraq. According to the earliest known history of our modern world, our human history begins in Sumer. Its civilization dates back further than all of the recorded civilizations of Egypt, China, or India. The clay tablets containing ancient records of Sumeria date back to earlier than 3500 BC, which are the cuneiform tablets, right? Or that's just the name of the writing. I think it's cuneiform. The Sumerians kept records indicating that they received their knowledge of astrology from the Anunnaki. According to Russian-American author Zachariah Sitchin, the Anunnaki was an alien race that bioengineered... Oh, shit. I forgot to turn off my availability, and I have a reading. I'm going to ignore it. She could call me back. That was my bad, though. Okay, where are we at? Zachariah Sitchin. And this is what kills me, too, because Zachariah Sitchin also believed in the Planet X, Planet Nibiru, which I have believed in and followed since, 2009. Okay, and I believe is kind of what's causing a lot of these solar flares right now. But that's a whole other rabbit hole you can look into. Planet X and Nibiru. So where were we? Zachariah Sitchin, the Anunnaki was an alien race that bioengineered the humans as a slave race to mine gold for their troubled planet Nibiru, the 12th planet. Oh, sorry, what planet did I say? The 12th planet. The last strong ruler of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, King Ashurbanipal, from 668 BC to 627 BC, made a great contribution to the human race by saving the ancient Sumerian culture, which was by that time almost 2,000 years old and near extinction. He was originally trained as a scribe and understood the importance of preserving astrological records for the sake of all humanity. Ashurbanipal, which was the ruler of the Assyrian Empire, created the first known systematically collected library at, I can't think because this woman's calling me again, off. She's had 5 readings for me this week, which I'm not trying to complain about because I do appreciate, but like it's obsessive. And I have a lot of people being obsessive right now and it's making me feel some kind of way. Okay, and we're back. He was originally trained as a scribe and understood the importance of preserving astrological records for the sake of all humanity. He created the first known systematically collected library at Nineveh by gathering all of the cuneiform literature and other records available at the time. Ashurbanipal and Sumerian astrologers used astrology to read omens, and not only worked with the classical planets, but also read and worked with the luminaries or bright stars. In fact, they considered the stars and the constellations to be more important than the planets. Okay. The stars make up the subtle energies of the constellations. This method of delving into the constellations beyond our solar system is observed by well-known occultist Alice Bailey in her book, Esoteric Astrology. Well, I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to look that up and probably buy that. So let's look that up. In her book, so Alice Bailey, Esoteric Astrology, adding to the list. Oh, and by the way, in case you didn't get a good enough look, this is called Gate and Key, Sidereal 13 Sign Astrology by G. Desiree Foltz. Okay. All right, let's get back to it. Bailey, who's the occultist, describes the energies of the heavenly bodies beyond our immediate solar system as being more important for evolved beings and more basic systems of astrology for less evolved individuals. Sumerian literature embodies and implies a strong tradition of golden age where prosperity, happiness, and mastery of the arts were abundant and his pinnacle of evolution. This expert from the Sumerian epic tale of Enmarker and the land of Arata. This is an excerpt of that book. Okay. So once upon a time, there was no snake. There was no scorpion. There was no hyena. There was no lion. There was no wild dog, no wolf. There was no fear, no terror. Man had no rival. Once upon a time, the lands Shubur and Hamazi, many-tongued Sumer, the great land of princes, divine laws, Uri, the land of having all that is appropriate, the land of Martu, resting in security, the whole universe, the people in unison, to Enlil, the one tongue gave praise. So maybe that's kind of like when the language destroyed, it seems like a little bit of Tower of Babel type of thing. But anyway, this excerpt describes the time when people lived together in peace, nurtured nature, and believed in one God, Enlil. As civilization evolved over time, each city in Sumer adopted a different god that represented a different set of archetypal energies, each one of which was connected to a specific planet. And they just talked about going from one language to multiple languages too. So that must have been when the Tower of Babel fell. And the language was, when you can't speak the same language, then you're separated, right? And then that's probably when the separate gods started to come too. As the civilization evolved over time, each city in Sumer adopted a different god that represented a different set of archetypal energies, each one which was connected to a specific planet. Each planet is subsequently assigned to a corresponding constellation or sign. It stands to reason that each city may have been built around guilds that each represented skills and purposes connected to its ruler. Ophiuchus is patterned after the original serpent holder Enki, lord of the earth, a Sumerian god. He was patron god of the city of Eridu. In the city of Eridu, Enki's temple was known as Abzu, house of the cosmic waters, and was located at the edge of a swamp. Swamps are commonly infested with snakes and other creeping things. Enki was believed to have lived in the Abzu since before human beings were created, even before there was dry land. In the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation story, Enki is known as Abzu. When above the heavens did not yet exist, nor the earth below, Aspu, the freshwater ocean, was there. The first, the begetter, the Tiamat, the saltwater sea, she who bore them all. They were still mixing their waters, and no pastured land had yet been formed, nor even a reed marsh, which is from the Enuma Elish, so that's kind of their creation story, right? In the epic tale of the Enuma Elish, I need to buy that too, so let me highlight that. I wonder if I can, or like watch it on YouTube or something. So in the Enuma Elish. In the epic tale, Abzu mates with another primal deity, Tiamat. Oh, I already read that. Did I? No. Nope. In the epic tale, Abzu mates with another primal deity, Tiamat, a sea serpent that lived in salt water and begets many children, young gods who later rose up against their father and killed him to gain power and control. Enraged by the death of her lover, Tiamat gives birth to the first dragons to seek vengeance upon her perfidious offspring. She filled the bodies of her dragons with venom instead of blood and waged war. Tiamat was slain by Marduk, god of storms, and her body was used to form the earth. So we can see a parallel in Greek mythology with the story of Medusa, who was slain by Perseus. She had blood made of venom on one side of her body. Because she had been raped, she was a fierce protector of women and the right to have control over their own bodies. Ophiuchus is identified as the healer, an herbalist, a maker of tonics, a mixer of waters, a sorcerer, an alchemist. And if you see what's going on, we're all, or at least I am, and people that I want to associate with, we're going back to those ways. I'm not taking these pharmaceuticals. No. Not only that, I'm not taking any of their stuff. And I realized what I have learned since 2020 is that if I'm going to reject that system, which I'm going to, then I'd better step it up and have some other things at my disposal, right? So herbal medicine, that's my biggest goal. It was my biggest goal for 2023, and somehow that year already got away from us. So that's going to need to move to my 2024, which is, again, why I don't have time to be watching every tarot unboxing, okay? I got things to do. I got tinctures to make. I got herbs to study. I got, 13 Zodiac signs to study now instead of 12, I'm busy. So anyway, because she had been raped, she was a fierce protector of women and the right to have control over their own bodies. Ophiuchus is identified as a healer, an herbalist, a maker of tonics, a mixer of waters, a sorcerer, an alchemist. She associated with the 8th astrological house and deals with transformation, death, and rebirth. If Scorpio is a rising phallus, Ophiuchus represents the womb, the galactic center, right? The power to create life. So of course they don't want us to have that. That's why they smashed the divine feminine to begin with, because we have the womb. We're the womb man, okay? With the power comes a charge to protect it fiercely, okay? Even in more recent times, mankind continues to exterminate the powerful feminine energies. And at this point, like I said, we're now extinguishing both the feminine and the masculine, and we must come together. And only man and woman can create life. This is not a political thing about the right to love who you want to love. But at the end of the day, there are only two people that can create life. A man and a woman, and we are being pitted against each other, and our sexuality is being used and being weaponized against us to dehumanize us, and that's just the bottom fucking line. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to what I have to say. I do stand for the rights of anybody to love and be who they want to be with in a relationship. That has nothing to do with the overall message here, okay? Just know that. I'm not a homophobe at all. Okay, getting heated. In even more recent times, mankind continues to exterminate the powerful feminine energies. The Catholic Inquisitions were responsible for the extermination of witches, which led to the deaths of many innocent women, and even cats, because they were deemed to be tools of the devil connected with women. As a result, having exterminated most of the cats, I didn't know that, the quick multiplication of mice and rats without pest control of cats led to widespread bubonic plague, and it seems Ophiuchus got her revenge. In Egyptian lore, Isis and Nephthys sisters used the power of Ophiuchus to revive Osiris from death. Their culture embodied the skilled use of magic herbs and potions and ways to preserve life and genetic material, including mummification. These were the very arts that were silenced when Greco-Roman politics took over Egypt and destroyed the presence of the healing feminine. Ophiuchus is only visible part of the time by a small portion of the world and falls into the dates of about November 29th to December 17th, which is not true. Go look at the sky. This year, it's starting on December 7th and going through December 19th, okay? But we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So for most people, this doesn't matter. Why be concerned with something that has no bearing on your life? However, there are still about 8% to 10% of the population whose natal astrology is heavily influenced by this population, mine being one of them. 2 placements in Ophiuchus, and Ophiuchus in the 8th house is a very powerful Ophiuchus, okay? And this isn't to say I'm better or more powerful. It's to say part of my mission, 100 million %, is to spread the message of Ophiuchus and bring back not only the divine feminine, but the divine masculine and feminine in union, okay? So, however, there's still about 8 to 10% of the population whose natal astrology, and if you want to know, get a reading with me, whose natal astrology is heavily influenced by this constellation. Most people think of constellations as entities that are continually present in everyone's view of the night sky. And many of astrological house and zodiac systems that astrologers base their horoscopes on do so with equal divisions of these entities by making each one 30 degrees, which is not how big they are in the sky, right? And the sun is only in Ophiuchus for about 18 days compared to 75 days with Virgo, which is why that woman that was like, oh my God, the sun's stuck in Virgo, something happened. The sun is in Virgo every single year for that long. But we don't know that because we've lost touch with our ancestral ways. And this is how they're controlling us. And until we step up and start looking at the sky again, and for right now, I'm going to use Solarium until I have the money to get me a very nice high-powered horoscope and start talking about it, even though I know this is going to trigger a lot of astrologers, and it shouldn't. I practiced mainstream tropical astrology for many, many years. I've been studying. I have spent thousands of hours, and I've talked about this, but if you've never heard me talk before, it was harder for me to break free from Western tropical astrology than it was for me to break out of Mormonism. I was raised hardcore LDS, Latter-day Saint Mormon here in Utah, and I'm one of 2 of 9 kids that broke out of that, okay? It was harder for me to leave Western or tropical astrology than it was for me to leave the church, if that gives you any indication. It wasn't easy or fun, but that's how brainwashed even somebody like me who's always made it a point to be a critical thinker, okay? So sorry, I get on my soapbox, but so you can see the issue I have with zodiac systems that equally divide the constellations into signs by 30 degrees when they are not in fact they are not equal in actual astronomy. Another factor that many astrologers do not take into consideration is the constant movement of the Earth's axis as it spins. It doesn't turn into a perfect circle, but wobbles back and forth like a top. Now, I'm going to admit something that also is going to trigger a lot of people. I don't believe we're living on a globe. I actually am very much down the flat Earth system, flat Earth theory. Now, I don't really know how that's all going to play in, but listen, I don't just turn my head to something and not research it because 1, it's unpopular, 2, people are going to make fun of me. I question everything. At this point, I don't believe anything that we were taught is real. And I just think if it makes sense, if there's a creator, and I believe there are, if you were going to create a land, are you going to create it on a ball? Does it make sense that water doesn't, fall off the globe? Does it make sense that airplanes are flying like this? Does it make sense that a boat's going around? It doesn't make any fucking sense. And if you've never looked into flat Earth, and I don't want to hear shit that you've said, if you just want to come in and troll my comments, you can do that, but I'm not going to take you seriously. I'm not saying I know for sure we're on a flat Earth, but I also don't know for sure we live on a globe. That's all I'm saying, okay? All I know is they lie to us about everything. So, back to for some reason, there is a precession of the equinoxes, but I don't know if that's necessary from a tilt of the axes, but I don't have another better explanation for it, okay? I keep losing my place. Okay. The astrological zodiac is fixed by the 5 cardinal points: Aries equinox, Cancer solstice, Libra equinox, Capricorn solstice. But like I just said, now the solstice isn't even in Capricorn. It's in Sagittarius. Okay. And the magnetic poles. These points of reference are relative to the sun and its path through the zodiac. Each season has 3 zodiacal ages equating to 90 degrees of the Earth's annual path around the sun. The fixed star constellations shift in relation to the Earth's equinoctial points by 1 degree every 72 years, as according to Ptolemy. Okay. Since the development of Western astrology during the Hellenistic period about 2,000 years ago, the Earth's axis has drifted about 24 degrees. Thus, the coordinates using these outdated chart systems are not accurate and no longer align with the path of the sun as we see it from our perspective here on Earth. Unfortunately, this means that approximately 86% of people who follow Western astrology currently identify as the wrong astrological sign. The shift of constellations from coming into view and leaving our view is a result of the precession of equinoxes, which tropical astrology does not take into account. Everything in the cosmos moves and vibrates continually, but the changes are infinitesimal in comparison to the average mortal lifespan of a human being. However, over a span of several thousand years, the changes are significant. The astrological timing is set of cycles that take about 23 millennial cycles, 25 segments of 920 years, for a total of 23,000 years to complete, and is known as the Great Year or the Platonic Year. As the axis of the Earth changes, if you want a good example of that, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Zeitgeist. It's very good. It's an older movie, but like the first 20 minutes explains all that and shows all that, and it also shows how the creation stories of like Jesus is the same as Horus, and it's all based upon astrology. So I recommend you go watch that. And I do think it's on Tubi for free. The axis of the Earth changes by a degree over time. A magnetic reorientation of the poles along the equatorial and ecliptic path planes is the result. The Earth's poles shift their position relative to the galactic center, which is Ophiuchus. Okay, the galactic center is determined by overlapping the Earth's equatorial points with the galactic plane. The overlapping planes point to where the terrestrial and the celestial planes intersect and become one. Isn't it fitting that this cross of the divine energies is calculated to lie between the constellations of Scorpio and Sagittarius, where we find who? Ophiuchus, the womb of our solar system, and it's been hidden intentionally, right? I didn't realize how much this goes on and on. I don't think I'm going to read all that. You guys are going to have to get this book. So let's just summarize here because we're already in an hour pretty much. Ophiuchus, the hunted, the hidden, the misunderstood. She has been slandered, accused, misrepresented because her ultimate aim is to create, seek, heal, love unconditionally, and usurp the powers of the tyrants. She is the threat to the regime, a silent power that liberates. Oh, I feel like emotional reading this. She is a threat to the regime, a silent power that liberates and frees the innocent by any means necessary, even if it means death and rebirth, even if it means being mocked and being misunderstood and being called crazy. That's what it means, you guys. She is the gateway to immortality and the knowledge of good and evil. She is the 13th constellation, absolutely relevant to our times. Ophiuchus is the gateway and Chiron is the key. The way to life and healing to immortality. I give regular presentations. Oh, okay, that was like the end of the book. I didn't realize that, but so good, you guys. So please take this time and connect with Ophiuchus, especially as a woman, but even as men. We got to reunite. We got to come back together and have each other's backs. This is no longer about man, woman, matriarch, patriarch. This is about humanity versus whatever they are. Okay. So, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any comments below, and happy Ophiuchus season.